Hi, this is Trish. Thanks for joining us today on Realty Check. Today we are in our second part of our financial series where we're talking about all different types of loans and all different types of financing that you can do to purchase a home. And today's series, we're going to talk about VA loans, how to use that veterans loan, if you have it, if you're eligible for it, how it works, all the ins and outs. You guys are going to want to stay tuned because we're going to have some good information on today's show. We have our guest today, Brad Watts with FBC Mortgage. Brad, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and Brad is a VA loan expert. I know, I've used him. We've done VA loans many a times together, and he knows his stuff. That's why we have him here today. So thank you, Brad, for joining us, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Brad with FBC Mortgage. I've been doing mortgages about 19 years now. So certainly I've done a lot of VA loans, I've done a lot of loans, period. So I'm looking forward to talking about VA loans and hopefully educating some of your buyers.
Awesome, thank you. And so VA loans, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
What is a VA loan?
A VA loan is financing that's offered to either veterans or active duty military.
Okay.
And it's a great benefit in that what most people like about it is you don't have to put any money down. So you can buy a house without having to save up for a down payment. And typically, it's the lowest interest rate in the market. So
Yes.
it tends to hover near the bottom as far as interest rates go. So it's a really fantastic benefit that we give not only our veterans, but our active duty service people.
That's amazing. And you know, rates right now are rising again. Oh, I'm cringing for the rest of this year. Like,
Right.
oh, where's it gonna go? But so far, VA loans still have amazing rates.
Yeah, we're still VA is the only product that we're still pricing consistently still in the twos.
That's amazing.
The high twos, where everything else has crept into the 3% and a little bit higher rate. So the VA is still your lowest option.
Yeah, that's great. So if you have that benefit, that's
Yes.
an amazing benefit. And,
Correct.
you know, a way of saying thank you to our veterans and our active duty. It's just a great, amazing benefit.
Right.
I've heard in the past that there was like a $1 down version of it, but that's no longer.
No, you don't have to put $1 down. We haven't
Save
had
that dollar.
Yeah, you can save $1 is the good news.
Yes.
That program hasn't been around for quite a while, but people still talk about it. But it's a zero down product. You don't have to put any money down at all.
Zero down payment.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
And when we talk about down payments and zero down payment, there are certain things when you do a conventional loan or an FHA loan, the lower the down payment, the higher your mortgage insurance, right?
Correct.
So,
and interest rate.
And
Yeah,
interest rate, right? You
correct.
get dinged on both of those when you're not putting a down payment. So if you're using a VA loan, do you have those penalties for not putting a down payment?
There's no penalty, and one of the other really fantastic things about a VA loan is it's not as credit driven as a conventional loan. Typically, everyone with a 640 and above gets the same exact rate on a VA loan.
Oh, wow.
Where if you had a 640 credit score on a conventional loan, your rate's not pretty and your MI is high. So it's a fantastic product in that too. They really try to benefit the veteran of, as long as you meet that 640 threshold, you're going to get the same rate as someone with a 750 credit score.
That's amazing.
So it really is. It's a great benefit for people that don't have perfect credit, but still have good enough credit to do a VA loan.
Right.
So.
And I know an active duty military that he says that he's always having people ask him, because he purchased a home with me a few years back and he used his VA loan. And he said that you'd be surprised at the amount of people that don't know how to use this, don't know what to do with it. They qualify for it, but they don't know even the first step. I do believe the first step is getting a certificate of some sort.
Well, whether you have to get what's called a DD-214, which is your certificate of eligibility.
Okay.
And what that does is we're able to go onto the VA website and confirm what your eligibility is. Your entitlement. Every veteran has an entitlement that can be affected by different things, and so we confirm that you have a full entitlement, and then you're able to get the financing that you're looking for. If you've had a foreclosure in the past on a VA loan, your entitlement will be less, and so that will affect how much money you can borrow. And so that's why we check your entitlement to figure out that you have the full entitlement, and therefore you can borrow the maximum amount.
Okay. Now,
So-
a foreclosure, if you had a foreclosure before on an FHA loan,
Doesn't matter.
does that affect your VA loan?
It's only if you've foreclosed on the VA. The one thing the VA doesn't forget. I've had a foreclosure 20 years ago that affected somebody's entitlement.
Oh my goodness.
And so they do, if you do foreclose and there's a cost to the VA, they are going to chip away at your entitlement, and we have to confirm what you can and can't borrow at that point. But it's tricky too, though. Your entitlement tells you how much you can borrow with no money down. You could still borrow more. You're just going to have to put money down.
Okay.
So-
you don't have to put the down payment of the excess that you're borrowing.
No. There's a formula and a worksheet
okay.
that we use based off of your entitlement, and if you go above your entitlement, it goes through its magic formula and tells us how much you have to put down. And to give you an idea, once you go above 548,250, which is the conventional loan limit in Clark County, you tend to have to put money down. You can no longer go zero down. And we do a worksheet, and I just had a $20,000 purchase, and we went through our math, and he had to put $17,000 down.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But on a
That's-
$620,000 house,
that's not bad.
he
No.
only had to put $17,000 down.
That is not bad
so
at
it's
all.
still, and so there really is no limit to how much you can borrow on a VA loan. It's just depending on that formula, they're going to decide how much money you have to put down. Like
Okay.
you can do $1 million purchase on a VA loan, you're just going to have to put money down.
And on that note, that was going to lead me to my next question, because
Yep.
I know just last year, I think, there were limits on VA loans.
Well, there were, correct. The VA they just recently decided there's no more limit. And so, like I said, there's a formula that we go through once you go above 540. And typically, when you go above 548,250, you're going to have to put some sort of down payment down. But we now, like I said, we can now do $1 million. You can go up into the fancy neighborhoods and do a VA loan, and you're still typically going to have to put less money than you would have on a conventional loan.
Oh, yeah.
So-
I did recently have a buyer that was in the 800 price range that
Right.
came in with zero down.
Right. Okay. And again, based off of your entitlement, and
Yeah.
your entitlement changes a little bit depending on what level of service you went to and different things. And so you can have people that make it to that point with no money down. It's just, again, there's a worksheet we go through and a formula we go through to decide that. But
Wow.
pretty much everyone with a full entitlement can at least do 548,250 with zero down.
That's amazing. That's good news for you veterans out there.
Correct. Yeah.
So you talked about the veterans can use it. Can
Yeah.
anybody else use it other than a veteran?
Typically, the only person, if a surviving spouse, a widow, the VA benefits transfer to her.
Okay.
So she would be able to get a VA loan even if she was never in the service. She takes over the spouse, or she or he takes over the spouse's eligibility. The only other caveat where you could have more people on a VA loan would be another veteran. And it has to be a family member, father, son, mother, daughter.
Okay.
Anything, as long as they're both veterans, they can be on the loan together. But other than that, there's no one else that can be on the loan with them.
Okay. All right. So if you're a veteran
Yep.
and you want to buy a home with your son, for instance, as co-signers or joint tenants, or however you're going to vest the home,
Correct.
and your son is not a veteran,
Right.
likely they wouldn't qualify.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Perfect.
So the overwhelming majority of what we see is husband and wife on a VA loan.
Okay.
So-
Husband and wife, yeah.
Yep.
So spouses.
Correct.
And your brother, or whatever.
Right.
Those wouldn't qualify.
Correct,
Okay.
yep.
Perfect. Now there is VA loans. I would say this is kind of a rumor, right? There's sometimes that I hear things in all aspects of real estate, and I'm just like, well, no, that's kind of what we call a rumor,
Yeah.
not really true.
Right.
May have started somewhere, but I don't know where it started, and it's just not true. So
Right.
one of those things is, do VA loans have closing costs?
Yes, and this is the most common rumor, because I get probably one call a week where the veteran is telling me, oh, I heard that no money down, no closing cost, I want to get a VA loan. And I'm like, and I have to explain to him, well, there is closing cost. That's not true. There are certain fees that a veteran is not allowed to pay, non-allowable VA fees, but there are closing costs that a veteran will end up paying. There's one single fee that the veteran can't pay always, and that's the termite inspection. And I'm sure you're aware of that as a
They're
realtor.
about
Right.
$70
Right, $70,
ballpark.
$75. That's one that
Yeah.
absolutely cannot be paid
It's not gonna break you.
by the borrower. And there's other fees there that they're not allowed to pay, but there are closing costs. So the rumor of no closing costs is absolutely not true.
Okay, so
So-
it's not, and that is the one of the things. I have, veterans contact me and they're like, yeah, I have zero down, so I'm not going to have to come in with anything. I'm like, no, there's still closing costs.
Correct. You don't have to come in with a down payment, but you will have cost as far as closing costs.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
unless of course you can get the sellers to cover those closing
Right.
costs. In other markets, I have been able to get that.
Right.
In today's market,
Not so much. Yeah.
that would be a tough one.
Yours isn't going to be the shiny offer.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. When you're competing against 20 offers,
Right.
there's not much hope for that one.
But that's an important thing to talk to your sellers as well, though, is that a lot of sellers think they have to pay all these VA fees, and so they don't want to accept a VA offer.
Right.
It's not true.
And I've averaged, so on a $300,000 to $400,000 house, just for instance, those
Right.
VA fees that non-allowables that the seller has to cover
Right.
are usually around $400.
It's not a whole lot.
So it's not a whole lot of extra money, and it is. That's one of the things that when we go over, net sheets and everything like that. It is helping a veteran,
Correct.
there's that.
Correct.
So it's really seller always gets to make those decisions. And
Right.
one thing that I've seen on, the listing and the buying side, when working with VA loans is veterans usually seem to be very well qualified. At the time when they get that VA loan approved, I've had so many more FHAs have issues and fall out and not make it through underwriting. So far, I don't think I've seen a VA not make it through underwriting. I mean, I know they have, but
Right,
I
right.
mean, just the
One of the
odds of it are low.
Right. One of the other great things about a VA loan is it allows us to go to the highest debt-to-income ratio. I've had a VA loan as high as 65%.
Oh my goodness.
DTI get approved. So where a conventional loan caps you at 50% and an FHA is 56.9. So you have more buying power on a VA loan typically too, because as I said, I've had it as high as 65 getting approved eligible.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
that's one of the other great things about a VA loan is we can really push that DTI, which means the borrower can qualify for more house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
And DTI, debt to income
sorry.
ratio.
Yes, debt to income, yes.
Yes. So that's how much debt you have as opposed to how much income you're bringing in, and there's a
Correct.
certain ratio of how much you can purchase based on that, and that's kind of what all loans are calculated
Correct.
off of.
Exactly.
That's where your pre-approval comes from. So,
Correct. Yes.
that is good. And so when we talk about other fees for VA loans, funding fee is not an out-of-pocket expense, but it is rolled into the loan, correct?
Correct. Depending on if it's your first time use or subsequent use, you'll have a VA fee that varies from 2.3%, I believe, on the first, and then it's 3.6 on the second use. But it's a fee that's rolled back into the loan, so you'll actually borrow more than 100% of the value of the property.
Okay.
Depending on your funding fee. And
Because you add that funding fee.
we add it back in. You're allowed to pay it if you want to, but nobody does. And so they roll it back in. The exception to that is if you're a disabled veteran, you're not required to pay a funding fee.
Okay.
So we always ask that question when we're originating a loan is, are you a disabled vet? And then we're able to waive that funding fee if they are.
Oh, wow. Okay. And for being a disabled vet, I assume there's documentation that needs to be provided to follow that.
On the DD 214,
Oh.
when we request eligibility, it will give us that information.
Okay, great. So it's already there. You
Yep.
already know that it's confirmed that it's a
Sometimes
disabled
they don't
vet.
tell me, but we figure it out. And
Yeah.
we say, great news, you didn't tell me you're disabled, but you're not going to have to pay a funding fee.
Yeah, and sometimes I've seen them as high as like $9,000, $10,000, more or less. It's a big fee. So
is, yep.
for the disabled vets to have that waived is a pretty big deal.
Correct?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
great news. Another thing that we don't hear much about is VA does construction loans.
They do. A lot of people aren't aware of it, and there's a good percentage of banks that don't do them because they're a more complicated loan, but they can be done. All the construction loans, none of them are easy. Let's be real. They're complicated, but they can be done. But yes, VA does have a construction loan, and VA also has a rehabilitation loan, similar to a FHA rehabilitation loan. So, and similar to a conventional construction loan, they have the same product.
So let's get into, let's start with the rehab loans, and then we'll talk about construction for a minute. But VA rehab loan, if say there's a home on the market, it's a fixer-upper. It's one of those, ugly, smelly, non-financeable,
Right.
Zombie homes. Is that
Right.
what they call it? Zombie houses, the
Diamond
TV
in
show?
the rough, yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's one of those, but you see it, you love it. Only a mother could love this
Right.
home, and you're just
Has
like,
potential,
that is
yes.
the one for me. It has
Right.
potential, it has good bones. That's
Yes,
a realtor
correct,
word.
yes.
Good bones. So VA, the veteran wants to buy this home, but say that they're already out shopping with a regular traditional VA loan. What do they have to do at that point?
They would identify that they wanted to use the rehabilitation product.
Okay.
And then we have to decipher what the rehab is going to be, because there's limitations. And then we make sure that whatever rehabilitation is going on is acceptable within the parameters of the program.
They're not putting in 14 karat gold countertops or something
you're
that
limited.
wouldn't add to value.
Yeah, you can't add a guest house. You can't. There's limitations.
Yeah.
You can't decide that you're gonna. There's definitely limitations. And typically, kitchens, countertops, the roof, flooring, AC,
pool. Well, not adding a
you
pool,
can fix
but
the pool,
fixing
yeah.
the pool.
Bathrooms, things like that you can include, but you can't start adding additions, knocking down walls, and making it the Taj Mahal palace. So once we establish that the rehabilitation that's needed is acceptable, then it's similar to all the other products. It has to be a licensed contractor. We have to present the bids to the underwriter, and all of that stuff has to be approved. So it takes a little bit more time, obviously. Give yourself a little, you're not going to do a 30-day close on a VA.
Probably 60.
45 to 60 is where you're
45 to
going
60.
to need to be. But other than that, it's just a regular VA loan.
Now, for that, they don't have to go to a special lender. Like if they were working
Correct.
with you, they'd stay with you. You'd be able to
Correct.
work the transition with them.
Correct, exactly.
Yes.
So,
And of course, seller would have to be on board, right?
correct, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely,
So
yes.
seller would have to be on board and be able to work with this and be able to consider that.
Correct,
Yeah.
exactly.
Accept the contract. I'm sure there's appraisers that have to go in, lots of estimates, lots
Yeah,
of.
licensed contractors is a key as well. I mean,
You can't do the work yourself?
No, you cannot. There actually has to be, and there's actually a list there's certain contractors that are blackballed on those transactions. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
That's why they want to know who's doing the work, and they're going to determine that person is acceptable, and so they really do. They look at a lot of stuff in order to get it, but that's why it takes longer.
Right.
Is all of that stuff has to be looked at and make sure that it's all within the parameters of the program and acceptable contractors.
I'm actually impressed it can be done within 60 days.
Typically, it's mostly cosmetic stuff, though, honestly. You're not
Yeah.
rebuilding the house. You can redo a kitchen and floors and all that pretty quickly. Once all the bids are in and everybody's on board, a contractor can knock all that out in a week. I
Wow.
mean, they can literally everything I just mentioned can be done in a week with a good contractor.
Yeah, that's it. That is true. That is true. The construction loans. Now, if
Yes.
they wanted to do a VA construction loan, would that be something that your company would do, or
Yes.
is that something that's outsourced?
No, we offer that product as well.
Oh, wow.
And again, it's similar to the other construction products. And again, licensed contractor is critical. You have to submit all of the plans and things you're going to do, and each step of the way has to be approved. And so it's a process, but we can absolutely do those as well. And then again, other than that, it's still a VA loan.
And one thing I found out kind of the hard way in the middle of an escrow, and it was like a unique situation or whatever, but
Right.
VA, to do a VA, to build a home for a veteran construction, they have to actually, the builder has to get approved with the VA. They have like certain paperwork they have to
Correct.
submit, and they have to get approved. And they also have to add a 10-year structural warranty. That has to be part of their contract when they are getting VA approved to build
Right.
homes, which was, didn't know it, that
Right.
learned it.
But like I say, there's actually a list, believe it or
Yeah.
not, of people that are not allowed to do it because they've done a bad job in the past. And so and if you've never done it, then like you said, there's a process to signing up. But if you've already done it, you're on that approved list and you're able to work with it. But yeah, they really do look into it significantly. But that's good for the buyer.
Yeah.
They're doing it for a reason.
And the VA is sticklers on termites.
Yes. Even though we don't have a lot of termites here in Nevada.
Never seen
Because I get
one
that
on a home
argument
inspection report.
50% of the time is, why are we doing termites? There's no termites. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But
There are spots in Vegas that have them,
Right.
but I have never seen one on a report as of yet.
Right.
Not saying that it can't be, but yeah, even in building, they want that termite soils inspection or something.
Correct.
So there's a lot going on there. So
I can tell you, I've never had termites turn up on an inspection.
I never have either. Not so
Not
far.
a single
No.
time, yeah.
No, but
So.
but they say the termite people are like, yeah, every once in a while. I'm like,
Right.
wow, I'd like to see that one.
Right. You'd almost be shocked if it comes back at you like, what? Yep.
No
Yeah.
way. Yeah. No. I call it. I'd like to see that. I mean, I wouldn't like to see that, but
Right.
just always
On
curious.
someone else's transaction. Yeah.
Yeah, just like to hear about a
Right.
positive.
Exactly.
No. Maybe perump.
Yes. Right. Yeah, that probably, yeah, that would make more sense out there for sure.
Certainly.
Yep.
Yeah. So back to the VA construction loan. So
Yes.
with the VA construction loan, basically they could buy the dirt and build.
Correct.
That's amazing. And they can do a VA. They could do that 0 down.
It
a
fluctuates. I mean,
formula. Okay.
there's formulas to everything, so I don't want to make a blanket statement.
Yeah, okay.
But you can do a VA construction loan, yes.
Wow, that's really amazing, and that is not common knowledge. A lot of people don't know about that. I didn't know about that till just a couple months ago, really.
Right.
So there's a lot of things. One thing that when it comes to loans, real estate, everything, no question is a dumb question. So like if
No,
you say
never.
like, hey, can this happen? Have someone look into it. And one thing that I've learned is that even as a realtor, you think you know everything, and you're like, no, that can't happen. But I always ask, because I even loans are not my avenue. I check with a professional, and there's times I've called you and I'm like, hey, someone said this, can this happen? And you check into it and you're like, wow, that can happen.
No,
So
and I've done this a long time, and there's still things that pop up that I didn't know were possible. And I ask the same thing. I go up the ladder where I'm at, and someone above me tells me, yeah, we can do that. And then I come back to you and say, Trish, good news, we can do it.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask.
Right.
And if you're working with someone that's professional, that nobody knows everything, and
No.
things change all the time. If you're working with somebody that's not even willing to ask, that may be a problem. So you
Correct.
definitely want to make sure that whoever you're working with, if there are certain things that you're having question, at least find out the answer from a good source.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's really a good rule of thumb. Now we talk about VA inspections. So we're going to go more into rumors, because I sit with sellers all the time, going through like offers and net sheets and everything, and we get a VA offer and they're like, oh no, that inspection is going to be awful and the house has to be perfect, and they send in their inspector and they'll fell every house, because my friends all told me that. So there is no VA home inspector, correct?
No, the appraiser he's appraising the home, but there's not a separate person that goes out there and does a VA inspection. No.
No. And as far as VA appraisals, I don't believe they have any criteria different than any other appraisers.
No, VA is very similar to FHA. Government appraisals, the house has to be intact, as you know. We can't be missing cabinets. We can't be missing, the main caveat to government loans is the house has to be functional. That means
livable.
Livable, exactly. Everything has to work. There has to be flooring. There has to be cabinets. There has to be appliances. That's the main restriction, but it's not really a restriction, because that's, most houses have that.
Yes.
And the pool has to work, and like you said, AC and the heater has to work, but that's really, there's no difference other than that.
Yeah. And the one thing that I've seen, on VA appraisals or whatever, and VA, FHA even the same, and, conventional even in some cases, everything has to be to code. You can't have
Right.
just like loose wires hanging out everywhere. And, you know, that's just, if your home doesn't have or it isn't up to code and you have all these loose wires or you have things that are not considered code, then, you know, maybe it's more considered a fixer-upper home.
Correct.
Right.
And really, the only restriction that we see with VA, honestly, is that it's not done through our normal AMC, which is our appraisal management company. It's done. The VA has their own panel, and
Oh,
so
I
we
didn't know
order
that.
the appraisal directly through the VA. Well, by regulation, they have 10 business days to get it back. So really, the only difference between a VA and other appraisals is it can take a little bit longer to get it back.
You know what I love about VA appraisals, though? One thing that I love, I hate and I love, is that if the appraisal is going to have a shortage, you know, if the appraisal, the Tidewater,
Yep,
oh my
the
gosh.
Tidewater Act is fantastic.
It is fantastic. I wish every loan did this because
Right.
whether you're on the selling side or the buyer side, especially when you're on the listing side as a listing agent, the VA will send you out a notification if your house, for instance, if the house is listed at 400,000 and the appraisal's coming in at 390. Before they just say, boom, here's a 390 appraisal and this is your number, you're stuck to it, there's nothing you can do, and then you can try to open a dispute, but they go nowhere.
That's across the board, though.
That
Yeah.
is across the board. Disputes go nowhere.
Right.
I've never seen success in a dispute, and it just adds 2 or 3 weeks to the transaction for nothing.
Right.
But here nor there.
Right.
This appraisal, before they stick you with this low appraisal, they send out what they call a Tidewater. And that is giving notification to the real estate agents that the VA appraiser is not seeing the value in the home. They don't tell you what the value is that they've come up with. They're not giving you any information on that. They just say, you know, it's not so far from what we're looking at, it's not valuing at the price that your list
Correct.
price is. Here's your chance to submit comps.
They give you 48. It's one of the positives of a VA appraisal is they give you 48 hours to supply comps.
Yeah, prove your case.
Yeah, FHA, conventional, yes, all those others don't give you. You just get the
It's a
report back.
surprise.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
VA actually gives you a chance to prove your case, like you said. So that is a fantastic thing.
It's a fantastic thing. It also, you know, as sellers, it gives you time to like talk to them, to
Right.
expect the worst or whatever,
Right.
if that's the case.
And as per VA guidelines, your buyer can pull out of the transaction at that point as well with no penalty.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
because it
that's
does
the other
protect
thing
the buyer.
Tidewater does. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it does protect the buyer, and and then it gives the agents time to get comparables together.
Yep.
You know, add features, maybe features that they looked over or overlooked. It's definitely time for us to provide
Come together and,
documentation
yeah,
and
yeah.
submit our case. Doesn't
Correct.
mean it's going to get accepted. It just means that it'll be in review. And I do believe that there's times where that has changed the
I've had it-
scenario. I
I've-
never know what their numbers are. But.
Right. No, I've absolutely had it change this. The realtors provided comps, we've sent it in, and then the appraisal came in at value.
Yeah.
So it absolutely works.
Yeah, so that's a great thing. Another thing that I want to say is probably a rumor or misconception, partially, is that there's, it's kind of out there that VA, if they default on a contract, they will never lose their EMD, their earnest money deposit. And
I wouldn't
that's
say
true,
never.
but not all the way
Right.
true.
The VA isn't a big fan of you losing your earnest money, but it always depends on why.
Right.
You know, if it's the day of signing and your borrower just gets cold feet and walks away, they're going to lose their EMD.
Right.
I
So,
mean-
and I've spoken with somebody at the
Right.
VA regarding just this situation, and they
Right.
said absolutely not. We'll protect the veteran in situations where the veteran is to protect them from being taken advantage
Correct.
of by the seller, because that's what they're there for.
Correct.
But they're not there to protect the veteran from being frivolous or
Right.
you know just completely defaulting on a contract and
Correct.
not following through with their obligation. That's not what they're about.
Correct.
And I do believe, I mean, of course, you know that we know with fighting for earnest money deposit, it can be a long process, and it's best if people can just come to terms and come to an agreement. But there is a point
It's
where
not a given, like you said.
It's not
and
an
FHA
automatic.
is similar. FHA doesn't like you to take the EMD either, but to an extent.
they'll protect it, but they're not going to allow just complete default.
Right. Like I said,
on,
if you just the day of signing decided I don't want to do this, you're going to lose your Rehab deed.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So another, good to get those misconceptions cleared up and things that that's common knowledge out there. As for sellers, I don't think sellers are taking any major losses on not having or on taking a VA loan
No.
over another loan.
And we're not, to go back to the appraisal, we're not seeing more low VA appraisals than other products either. That's kind of a misconception as well. I mean, that's not the case.
Yeah, I've been realizing, talking about appraisals for a second, and of course I'm not an appraiser, just a realtor. But talking about appraisals, I have actually seen them coming in a lot stronger lately. With the market being so high and everything offering so high, I am surprised that for the first time since I've been in real estate, I think the appraisers are actually kind of catching up with the market in a lot of cases. And, not always. There's things, and come on, sellers, sometimes they get they push it a little too far or too high. It's crazy out there right now.
They push the envelope. I'm surprised too that we haven't had more light appraisals. I agree. We still get them, but based on, and as a realtor, this, market could be considered a little bit inflated right now. So we're not, we're not seeing as many as I would have expected for sure.
Right. One thing, I was in a sales meeting yesterday, and one thing they had said, just for video purposes, we're in, what month are we in? We're in March of 2021. So just if someone's watching this like 20 years later, that's where we're at right now. So I was in a sales meeting yesterday, and inventory, single family residences right now is 1,847 homes. And what they said in this sales meeting was like such an aha, is like, you can talk to realtors right now that have been in real estate for 30 years, and no one can tell you they have experience in this market because we have never seen inventory this low. And this is new to all of us. And we're navigating through this. Of course, our experience is helping us. And, the lack of experience for some people, I'm sure, is hurting them. And kudos to the new agents in this, because you're going to learn it, talk about throwing you in the trenches.
Yeah, you're going to be a rock star if you get through this, right?
Yeah. This is different. We are definitely experiencing something tremendously different than we have before. And one thing that I've seen in these market stats, in the breakdowns, it showed the different loan types, and of all the loan types that did close in the last month, VA was the lowest amount of closings, which I do think is a result of sellers not wanting to take VA loans right now in this market because of all the misconceptions out there, which is it's sad, and again,
it's unfortunate for the veteran too.
It's unfortunate for the veteran, and again, buyers are right now, they're having to. A lot of buyers are having to put up, difference between appraisal, and if it doesn't come in, they're having to offer the difference. And, we can't force buyers to do anything, but it's just a matter of, do you want the offer accepted or do you not want the offer accepted? That's really what we're dealing with right now. Yes or no. It's not, there's 20 other offers and they're willing to do it. You have no really options at that point.
That's another misconception too, by the way, is you can pay over purchase price on a VA loan. Some people think you can't. You can.
Well, yeah.
There's a disclosure. You have to acknowledge that you're paying more than appraised value, but you absolutely can go over as well.
Absolutely, and that is true. And that is actually a huge benefit for VA, because veterans don't have a down payment.
You didn't put any money down already, so you're in a much stronger position as far as cash out of pocket.
Yeah, and that's one thing to maybe discuss with the sellers too, is that maybe this is something, this veteran has the ability to pay that appraisal shortage, where somebody else that has to go and put in the 10, the 20% down plus their closing costs, they're not going to have the ability to pay the shortage. So that's just something to consider out there, as we're going through this. And this is, different for all of us, and we're learning.
Yes, and one thing I want to throw in too before we finish too is that Home is Possible is open to veterans. And although you don't do a down payment, you can get a grant to cover your closing costs. That's available to you. And there's also what's called Homes for Heroes on Home is Possible, where it doesn't give you any money, but it gives you a lower than market interest rate.
Oh, yes, I remember
that. There's two different products that you can use on Home is Possible, but for someone who doesn't have down payment money as well, Home is Possible could be an option for them as well.
And that home is possible for heroes. Does that also work with like the rates right now are super low on VAs? It can actually go lower?
They typically offer a lower than market interest rate. That's what the benefit is, because
That's amazing.
They're not giving you any money, but they still want to give you something. It's typically about a quarter point lower than what you can get on the street.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So
So
you have access to that, right?
I do.
Yes.
So, and the good news about that program is there's no recapture of anything because you didn't take any money from them.
Yeah.
So it's simply just a way for you to get a lower than market interest rate through the Home is Possible.
And that's Nevada only? That's through
Correct.
our housing division?
Nevada Housing Division, yep.
Yep.
So I did want to squeeze that in. So
Yes, no, that's great. I actually was going to ask you about that and forgot, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yep.
Yes, so if people want to talk to you more about using their VA loan or loans in general or anything, how do they reach you, Brad?
They can reach me on my cell number is the best place to reach me. It is 310-415-3901. Typically available pretty much 7 days a week. Trish can attest to that. So if you have questions, by all means, call me, and I'd be happy to talk to you about VA loans and find out if it's a good fit for you.
Yes, absolutely. And he has a 310 area code. He is not in California. He's here
not.
in Vegas. He's been here for as long as I've been here.
Yeah,
well,
I've been
not
here.
as long as I've been here, but as long as I've been in real estate.
Yes, 19 years. I just haven't given up the number. I
Yes.
don't want to memorize a new phone number, so that's all. Yeah.
Definitely understandable. Can't blame you for that one.
Right,
So
so-
Brad will take calls. You can text him. If he doesn't
Yep.
answer, you can send him a text, leave him a message. He always returns calls, so he's a great source to reach out to. You need questions or you have questions on real estate or how to get started, and I can always direct you over to Brad too. My phone number is 702-308-2878. Trish Williams, thanks for joining us today on Realty Check, and stay tuned. We have this financial series that's going on for 7 weeks, possibly 8 weeks. I think we're going to throw in a bonus episode on non-QM loans, which we'll
boy.
talk about that one.
Right, yeah.
So we'll talk about that as it's coming, but stay tuned. Next week, we're going to be talking about construction loans. So we will see you guys next week, and keep watching our show, share it with your friends, and leave me reviews, please.
Yes.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye, guys.